The TikTok ban is full of delicious irony that seems to be flying under the media's radar. A Chinese app that is banned in China gets upset that the United States is trying to ban it, in part because of political influence campaigns. The company then uses its platform to try to influence the United States' political process, all while the presidential candidate with a TikTok wants to ban it, while the presidential candidate without a TikTok wants to keep it. And for the cherry on top, the ban itself incentivizes the exact data collection that is the other half of the impetus for the ban. Whew. Still with me? If so, then today we are going to cover the US concerns over military security and influence operations that led to the current discussion, before pivoting to the legislative progress on the bill, how forced divestment might play out, and the use it or lose it dilemma, which is what prompted me to produce this video in the first place. Sad to say, we are not going to start with a short dance routine, but rather with the concerns over military security. On March 13th, the House passed a bill that would force TikTok's Chinese ownership to divest from the company. Thus, TikTok is not being banned, but rather Chinese control over it is. Keep that distinction in mind, because it will come up again. The justification was threats to national security, which come in two flavors: data tracking and influence operations. The data tracking has the more obvious military consequences, which is why we are starting there. Going back to 2018, the US military banned fitness trackers with geolocation, because if foreign intelligence were to somehow access that information, they could back out the location and perimeters of secret US military installations by viewing the path of a run. That type of thing shifts the line of power away from the United States' preferred locations, and creates the standard associated problems in coercive negotiations. The same type of tracking concerns led the US Army and Navy to ban TikTok from its devices in 2020. India also banned the app in 2020 out of similar national security concerns, stemming from ongoing tensions involving the border it shares with China. Taiwan joined the club 2 years later, and hopefully I do not need to explain the island's political reasoning there. Also in 2022, Biden signed into law the cleverly titled No TikTok on Government Devices Act, which, get this, banned TikTok from all federal devices. For its part, TikTok parent company ByteDance claims that American data is stored on American servers in the Great Commonwealth of Virginia, an argument that hardly quelled skeptics' concerns. And that went double after Forbes discovered that creator financial data was being stored in China. And even if the data were being properly segregated, the concern remains that one day the Chinese government might compel the company to quietly hand over the information. The origin of this concern stems from China's 2017 National Intelligence Law, of which Article 7 states that all organizations and citizens shall support, assist, and cooperate with national intelligence efforts in accordance with the law, and shall protect national intelligence work secrets that they are aware of. Western officials interpret this to mean that ByteDance is on the hook to cooperate if compelled. ByteDance, for its part again, points out that it is incorporated in the Cayman Islands and is thus exempt, which, once more, Western officials find unconvincing. The second part of US national security concerns relates to influence operations. And here is where the under-the-radar irony starts to take hold. The owner of a Chinese app banned in China grows angry that it may be banned from operating the app in the United States. The ability for social media to influence political beliefs is well known in China, so much so that within mainland China, TikTok isn't TikTok. Rather, ByteDance has to operate a separate app as a part of the Great Firewall of China, the broader irony of which is not lost on US Ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns. The difference, of course, is that the United States has a First Amendment, and a longer tradition of being very concerned about the perceived appropriation of businesses, because of how that can discourage new companies from developing. But that butts up against the concern that the Chinese Communist Party could again exert influence to manipulate how TikTok's algorithm prioritizes content, say pushing positive posts about its preferred candidate, whoever that may be. That led to the second great under-the-radar irony. Accused of being able to influence American politics, the company attempted to influence American politics. With the divestment vote on the horizon, TikTok users were greeted to this message upon logging in, urging them to call their representatives and push for a no vote. And, as if to underscore the point about disinformation, the message led off claiming that Congress was planning a total ban of TikTok, when in fact the bill mandated divestment. We have discussed Catch-22s recently, but you have to marvel at how the solutions to concerns about influence campaigns was to conduct an influence campaign, though I suspect this was less of a nefarious government strategy and more of the result of a panic inside the halls of ByteDance. The plan worked in the sense that congressional phone lines were indeed overwhelmed, but the irony of the situation was not lost on the main sponsors of the bill, who pushed a vote to the floor anyway. And after all of that, well, ByteDance's efforts failed to change the result. The sponsors bridged the party gap, with a Republican on your left and a Democrat on your right, and the final count on the bill itself was a bipartisan 352 to 65. Interestingly, those 65 nay votes came from the far wings of both parties, seemingly lending credence to the idea that US politics is not a left-right spectrum, but rather a bizarre circle. For the bill to become law, it will still need approval from the Senate, and then the president's signature. Now, the presidential politics of this is where things start to get fun again. Back in 2020, then-President Trump signed an executive order to force the same type of divestment. However, the District Court of the District of Columbia, man, saying district twice like that feels awkward, imposed an injunction to block it, citing the order as arbitrary and capricious. The case never made it to a full hearing, because Biden became president and revoked the order, instead passing it to his Secretary of Commerce to decide on the next steps. Since then, Trump has reversed course and is now anti-ban. Many have pointed to his meeting with a TikTok investor in the days before he made this policy reversal as being the cause, though the evidence for that does not go beyond the mere questionable timing. For his part, Trump has said that, without TikTok, you make Facebook bigger, and I consider Facebook to be an enemy of the people. It should be noted that no one below the age of 40 uses Facebook anymore, and no one above the age of 40 uses TikTok. It might as well be an empty Venn diagram. Meanwhile, Biden, who has a TikTok, and yes, this is his actual profile image, has announced that he will sign the bill if it reaches his desk. Thus, we have reached under-the-radar irony number 3. The candidate without a TikTok is anti-divestment, while the candidate with a TikTok is pro-divestment. What would happen next if the United States forces divestment is unclear. Divestment means that TikTok cannot be owned by a U.S. foreign adversary, which is currently defined as China, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Russia, and Nicolas Maduro. Lest you think that that was a joke, here is the actual legitimate list. You have to love how the United States singled out Maduro here. It is not Venezuela that is the problem. Apparently, it is specifically Maduro. A fuller explanation on that will have to wait for a later date. In any case, divestment would mean that ByteDance would have to sell TikTok to someone, anyone, who is not on that list. Some are concerned that this is infeasible, because ByteDance's valuation is somewhere between $50 billion and $300 billion. Good luck figuring out how much of that value is attributable to TikTok. Regardless, few entities have that kind of money on hand. Worse, obvious suitors like Google and Meta have antitrust concerns due to YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. Of course, those valuations are calculated in the absence of a ban, which is sure to sink the numbers. In fact, before any of the ban efforts ramped up, Older valuations of the company went to $400 billion. It is also worth noting that the value of a company is determined by how much someone is willing to pay for it. And if no one is willing to pay $50 billion, then it is not actually worth that much. It is possible that ByteDance simply refuses to sell and lets the app go dark in the United States so as to deter future bans in other countries. But if those bans are going to happen anyway, then deterrence is irrelevant, and the company is just throwing money away. Time to find an investor and extract as much as you can. Just imagine a Treasury Secretary owning an app known for its silly dances. It's great. However, it is possible that Steve Mnuchin will never have the opportunity. China has the legal ability to block the sale of sensitive exports. Regardless of TikTok's sensitive status, the government does have a long-term vested interest in deterring future foreign bans of Chinese products. ByteDance might want to cash in while it can, but the government must worry about the damage that this would cause the next major company. Meanwhile, it is also possible that TikTok's algorithm would actually fall under the sensitive category. And yes, we are once again venturing into great irony territory if the addictive algorithm is indeed a component of national security. Stripping the algorithm would tank the value of TikTok, because the buyer would effectively be purchasing a membership list without the corresponding way to keep them on the platform. But I suppose that would be Mnuchin's or whoever else's problem. And if the divestment does go through, we reach our final under-the-radar irony, and perhaps the greatest irony of all. The divestment incentivizes the exact behavior that the United States is concerned about. The reason that the government of China might not want to extract personal data from TikTok is because revelation of such activity would surely kill the app within the United States. Given the long-term income stream that exists from the company still ongoing, the short-term coercive gain may not be worth the foregone economic benefits. But if the app is going away anyway, well, now you face a use-it-or-lose-it scenario. Perhaps you might as well take the data while you can, and store it away for the right moment, knowing that it is going to be gone one way or another tomorrow. Indeed, the United States would not be the first country to have this concern. Hey, good news. I made a playlist just for the videos I do on China. Go check it out. And if you enjoyed this video, well, first, show me your best dance moves, and then please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.